Welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion video, and in today's video, I am not alone. I'm joined by Real to Real, aka Mark, aka Better Than the Rest, aka Anyways, we're going to talk about Broly and 3 potential ways we can bring Broly into Dragon Ball Super. Now, this is a fun video, something you're going to have fun with, and, Mark he's the crazy guy. He's got all these crazy ideas and theories, so I'm going to let him kind of just talk about it here, but nonetheless, before we get into it, how are you doing today, Mark? Thanks for joining me on today's video, bro.
I'm good, DFree. Thanks for having me.
I'll do the best, man.
No, I'm actually getting done with finals, so obviously I have a little bit more free time on my hands. So yeah, it's always good to always get back in touch with everyone.
All right. So, one of the things that you kind of came to me with as an idea for Broly coming back was you can kind of throw him in there as a Universe 6 Saiyan. Do you want to kind of talk about that here a little bit?
Well, yeah. Okay, so when we kind of met Kaba in the Universe 6 tournament arc, when we were kind of going with that, it was kind of implied that Kaba was somewhat of a strong Saiyan, but not necessarily. We have no confirmation one way or the other whether he is the strongest Saiyan who's ever lived or anything like that. And one of the things they could actually do, because we have very little idea of not only of the Universe 6 Saiyans, their mythology, their history and everything, or even the Universe 7 Saiyans and that idea, you could just kind of go to Universe 6's Planet Sadal and explain Kaba's just a group of these young children who are basically prodigies of being Saiyans and everything, and Kaba's either training them or something, and here's this one named Broly, and maybe he's an evil person or something like that, and that's a villain down the arc or something, and another arc or something like that they have to deal with. Plus, even just having a Saiyan as an enemy, a main antagonist, someone different, and actually going back to kind of the roots of Dragon Ball Z, where you had Raditz, Nappa, and Vegeta, and legitimate threats that are Saiyans. That would be really cool. Plus, there's just so much left to explore in Universe 6's Planet Sadal versus Universe 7's Saiyans that's already been kind of swept clean at this point. That would be the coolest thing. They just don't
exist anymore.
They just don't exist anymore. And to me, that would probably be the easiest thing for them to do. Just introducing Broly is okay, well, yeah, the movies never happened. We understand that it never happens, but Dragon Ball Super has been nothing but nostalgia at this point, nothing but nostalgia. And I wouldn't really put it past them to actually go out and introduce Broly as a character in the canonized version of Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super, and introduce him in this way and actually give us that type of a character. And you can bring back in certain ways his hatred for Goku or something else like that. I mean, they would have a little bit more free room to play with it than just basically bringing in the character from those movies that we know, where you would have to retcon a lot about him anyway if you're going to do that. So this would probably be the easiest way for them to do it and still get all the fan recognition and all the concepts and be able to develop his story, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that whole, for one, I think Universe 6 is a whole thing that we have the opportunity to explore. And I did think that there was a lot of opportunity there as well with the Vegeta-Kaba relationship and, Vegeta's peaked interest in the planet Sadal or Salad, whatever it is. And I do think that Broly being, a Universe 6 Saiyan would be a cool concept. So I actually personally wouldn't be opposed to that. Another thing here that we have, though, going on is maybe what about the idea of, time rings being used in the series? We saw time rings in the most recent arc and, the implications of them. But what if they're used to basically merge the timelines and the movie timelines? What about that?
I personally, I really kind of like this idea. This is something that they could do either as a legitimate arc or, one thing that the movies do, or anime movies do in general, we saw in all the original Dragon Ball Z movies, is they're not canon to the story. They're just kind of offshoot stories that either take place in their own kind of timeline or in their own kind of continuity that are just outside of the main story that's going on. And they're just kind of little fun stories. If you're going to take Dragon Ball Super and give it any type of a movie, and you want that movie to succeed, outside of just bringing back Frieza or basically retelling any of the arcs that they've already done with Dragon Ball Super, just give it its own movie like Dragon Ball Z had. This would be kind of a way to do it. Whether this is an arc or, like I said, been saying, a movie in general, they have these MacGuffins of time rings where we've already seen Zamasu basically take this and go and manipulate an entire other timeline by basically killing all the other gods of destruction and all this other stuff. and basically manipulating an entire multiverse into his like will. I would not actually hate to see them do that with, just bring back Broly and then kind of explain away really quickly in a movie or in an arc, these timeline rings exist. Someone was able to get them, and now Broly, for whatever reason, is in this particular continuity, and we have to fight him again, and he has this power up or whatever, be it magic or something else like that, drives the story, or some kind of godly force driving the story, and he's just basically the henchman. Any way to get Broly in there, like the one that everyone loves and everyone is like kind of gushing over, I feel like that would be an interesting, not only creatively, but also just kind of a business-centric move for Toei to make going forward. Is just everyone loves Broly. They know they have a cash cow. They already did the same thing with Trunks, just bringing him back when we all thought that he was done. So, like, basically, in my opinion, anything is up in the air at this point. They can do almost anything they want. I mean, Yamcha just got like a freaking his own legitimate anime or manga series. So, anything is up in the air, and I would not put it past them to do another Broly movie in this way or in some other way. Maybe the next one or anything. But what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I think that a Broly movie would be pretty cool, and it will be cool in the sense that a lot of people really enjoy the Broly character. For whatever reasons they enjoy the character, and I think that would be a good, like you kind of touched on it there, as a marketing ploy. It'd be a good way for them to kind of get that moolah, because that's all it really comes down to in the end of the day. It's a good way, because then, you got the movies again, you can sell more toys and all that stuff. So Broly is honestly one of the most profitable characters in the series. But, I think that as far as like a movie goes, and then using the time rings to merge the timelines, that's an outside kind of looking in kind of idea. And I do like it. It's totally different. It's just different enough to make sense, but it's just different enough at the same time to where I just don't see them actually doing it. Like, I think it would be a cool thing that I could say makes sense. But the thing about that is, too, it would have to kind of apply to all the different continuities of all of the movies. It can't be like self-contained within the Broly movies. So that means that, they'd have like Janemba and all these other guys and all that stuff, which would be cool as well.
I mean, bringing back Janemba, open up the gates of hell, and bringing in all those old movie characters. I mean, I would be okay with that, honestly. That would be pretty cool, in my opinion. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They have
it would
to
be
face
cool.
These people
I just don't think that they would do it because it's too outlandish for them. But it'd be an awesome idea. Speaking of outlandish, we're going to talk about the last thing that I have seen kind of tossed around, honestly, since Dragon Ball Super's inception. The possibility of Broly being a god of destruction of one of the remaining universes. What do we have about this, Mark?
Okay, so I've heard this too all the time. It's like, I've heard basically the first thing that we talked about where like maybe he's a Universe 6 Saiyan. I haven't necessarily heard the time rings. I'm sure other people have come up with that in their own right somewhere down the line. This is the one I've heard from fans more than anything else. Just they want him to be a god of destruction. I'm not necessarily sure how that plays into it, but there are certain ways that you can kind of work around this, in my opinion. I mean, in Dragon Ball Super, you had Zeno. We tell everyone that Zeno basically destroyed 6 other universes because, the blink of an eye, because he got mad or other stuff like. And the one thing that's always pissed me off about that is the fact that having 6 other universes with the way that Whis actually explained how the 12 universes work, being mirrors of each other, really kind of, puts this in a weird tilting, like, that makes no sense. Like, what were these other 6 universes? Were they twins of each other? That completely goes, like, against the 13 rule, They both add up to equal 13. Well, I'm not necessarily sure how it works mathematically, but you can also, like, in a movie or in an arc or anything, basically explain that those 16 universes or the 18 universes are basically, instead of every universe having 2 twins, like a twin of itself, everyone had 2 twins. And that would be a cool way to bring in like the whole, this is why that we had all these Dragon Ball movies and Dragon Ball Z movies that had no idea, like nothing to do with the timeline, but they were basically different in and of themselves. And or just interesting, like, or even if like you don't want to use the timelines in general, you can basically say, well, okay, Universe 6 and 7 basically had timelines of themselves with Saiyans and Frosts and Frieza characters, but so did this third universe that got wiped out that was basically their brethren, and that had a Saiyan who was also a god of destruction or something like that, and that's Broly, and you use basically something either close to his design or interestingly close to its design or something, and that's how you explain it away without having to say, well, despite these two universes being basically twins of each other, and they're the only ones who are twins of each other, and why are there other Saiyans in other universes? While every other universe or every other two universes should be completely different and not be necessarily the same or kindred to the ones that we've actually been in. That's my only explanation there. So if one of the other 6 universes that got destroyed was actually kind of a twin or brethren of universe 6 and 7, and then you can explain away why there's just like a whole nother set of Saiyans, and maybe even a god of destruction who was a Saiyan, and maybe that led to all 6 of those universes getting destroyed. That's the only thing I can come up with, honestly.
Broly, look what you did to the community. You got Mark thinking of all these crazy outlandish ideas. So let me just kind of do this really quick. As far as my personal agreement / rankings of these, I would kind of say that I think that that's the least possible option. And the most possible option would be the Universe 6 one. I do think that that one is kind of the cleanest one that I can see actually happening. It would just kind of work really well, just in my opinion. Even if he's somebody that's just kind of there, they slowly weave into the the cast and the story or whatever the case is, or they build up slowly. I think it will work out best that way. On the flip note, I do think that the timeline thing is probably the most interesting one, and the God of Destruction one, I'm like,
I agree. I agree. And in fact, it would be really interesting to, for me, one of the reasons why having Broly be kind of a rebooted version of himself that is Universe 6 based is whenever Goku and Vegeta basically go to Universe 6, and if it's even remotely close to what Kaba explained, the whole planet Sadal being and how their society is and everything, they're good people and all this stuff, they don't necessarily understand the power of the Saiyan. They don't necessarily understand the limits that they can actually reach. To me, it would be really cool to have Goku and Vegeta come in, basically change what's been going on, or basically how they teach them about themselves in one way or the other. And then because of that leads to a villain who hates them just for their own reasons. And then you can start to kind of bring in the whole concept of maybe even help explain why they can turn Super Saiyan, why can they turn Super Saiyan God, and what the hell Super Saiyan Rose was. I think that would be cool to have a legitimate threat of a Super Saiyan villain or a Super Saiyan God villain or an evil Super Saiyan God villain, just for the entire series, to give us a lot more context into what it is Saiyans are and how they operate and why they are the way they are. If the series would actually do that, I think people would lose their shit. Even if it actually even tried to explain, it doesn't even have to make sense. But if they were in the process of even trying to explain what all this was about, I think people would lose their minds.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Broly, like we kind of talked about a little earlier, is one of the most profitable characters, but he'd be a cool character. And the thing about it is, the Universe 6 thing is they could probably, if they don't kill him off, they could probably make him a recurring character or something like that, which would be really cool too. But, Broly is Broly, and people love him. So, anyways, to kind of wrap up the video here, I want to know, and Mark I'm sure does as well, want to know down below in the comments what your favorite one of these ideas is, and if you have anything else you can contribute down below in the comments, get a conversation going. We'll be in there checking that out. But nonetheless, thank you for joining me on today's video, Mark. It was definitely a pleasure to talk about the legendary Super Saiyan, yes Saiyan, Broly.
No man, anytime you want me in, I'll just tell you all my crazy freaking theories.
Yeah, Mark is the theory guy. If you guys enjoyed any of the ideas here, they're 100% original from Mark. Link is in the description. You guys can go check his channel out and subscribe over there. He's going to get a lot more active because he's been really busy, but he's going to get more active. But yeah, thank you for joining me for today's video, bro. Like I said, always a pleasure. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Bye.